In 1992, I had a car accident, and at that point, I was diagnosed from a rheumatologist that I had fibromyalgia. And then I had a second car accident where someone hit me in 1996, and that one was quite dramatically increased, and right away my FM had flared. I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder after the second car accident, and what that involved was that took away the boundaries for me of my safety. And so I had all sorts of issues around that where I didn't feel safe in the world anymore, hyper vigilant around my safety, where I went and how I went somewhere. MCS, it's really interesting because I don't think I actually identified that and hadn't been diagnosed from a doctor with that. I just knew that from a very young age, I always had sensitivities. So if we were driving behind a vehicle that had diesel, for instance, even if the windows were up, I would get an instant headache, sensitive to noise, to sounds, sensitive to perfumes, sensitive to pretty well everything that you could smell. When I was out exercising, which I love to walk, it's my favorite thing, but we're urbanites, so I'm usually walking on streets with sidewalks where houses are, and you can have that vent smell that comes out with the fleecy sheets, basically. And that can just send me right into a spiral from the head right on down. It's just like a whole physical thing, and then I become weak. What I realized is that I was sensitive to all sorts of different stimuli, whether it was sound, whether it was smells, whether it was touch that could be painful to me or disturbing, or light. So in my workplaces were the most difficult, where I'd have to get them to take out the overhead lighting because I could hear the buzz, I could feel the stimuli from it, and the light from the glaring bulbs was just too much for me to work under. So I was always in a position where I was having to modify everything around me, which gets to be rather uncomfortable at times because you just want to fit in with everyone else. With fibromyalgia, my life was dramatically impacted. I owned a house. I had a fabulous career going. I had two children. I was a single parent. And so I was busy, busy all the time. And once the car accident and the fibromyalgia was introduced, and all of that stopped. Well, fibromyalgia on a daily level affected absolutely everything in my day, from bending over to picking up to going up and down stairs. Could I do another trip? Could I not? Did it mean that I had to yell at the kids to come up? Did I need to go to the grocery store? And so I had to get their support. You go down X number of aisles, I'll go down these aisles, and this is the list. Let's get it done so mom can get back to the heating pad, mom can get back with me. And I was on medication the whole time. My biggest challenge and the saddest thing was when we had to go for school supplies and when we had to go into a mall and we had to buy clothing, which should be an exciting time for kids going back to school. And I feel that I took that away from them because I would take one look at the length of the cement mall and go, I can't make it to that store. I can't go that far. I'll never make it back out again. So my pain level was extreme, and those are the limitations that I had to live under, and that's sad to have to live with that with children. I was put on medications as soon as I had the car accidents. So, and then I had worked with a psychologist for the post-traumatic stress disorder. So I had, and I had physiotherapy, and I had massage therapy, and I had all sorts of things, all sorts of different modalities I tried. And some of them got me a little bit better, and some of them got me quite a bit better, but always the FM was always there. And the post-traumatic stress was there. That feeling of the post-traumatic stress was there and wouldn't leave me. I've been reading Annie's column in the newspaper for years. As a counselor, she was taking issues and, bringing them to the forefront. And her articles were always interesting. And I used to cut them out, certain ones, and, pass them on to other people even. Through Annie's column and her description of how she found out that she had multiple chemical sensitivities and the journey that took her on, made me look at my own life a little different and look at what exactly was toxic in our environments. And that went from carpets to fibers to, you know, to all of the standard scents that are there, but to really look at the environmental impact. I knew I was sensitive to molds. I knew I was sensitive to carpets. I know that I have to get away from certain situations, but Annie put it in a concise manner where I thought, oh my goodness, that's what's been attacking me. That's what I've been feeling all my life. That's what no one's described to me before. So I didn't even realize that I had multiple chemical sensitivities until I read Annie's column. And then I realized that there was a name for this that was actually a scientific fact, that it was a disorder, and that there was help out there for it. So I was just thrilled when I found out that she was teaching this course, and I really wanted to be part of that.
Okay, my name is Bill Thurston, and I came to this workshop because I had multiple chemical sensitivity and chronic fatigue, immunodeficiency syndrome, and fibromyalgia, and post-traumatic stress disorder-like symptoms. I heard about the dynamic neural retraining program from one of your former students, who was a friend that I knew who had had MCS for about 10 years when I met her. And she went through the program, recommended it, and I sat on it for a while before coming here. I did the workshop last week, starting last week, so it's been less than a week. I was somewhat skeptical. I was eager to believe it, because if it were true, then it would be so wonderful. But I was actually skeptical because I had this deep science background. I've taught science for 40 years, and research methods and so on. And I thought that in order to deal with this sort of set of illnesses, there had to be some heavy-duty drugs and surgery involved. So it couldn't be that simple. The first time I noticed a shift, and I was certain about it, was on the second day. I was sitting outside with one of the other people in the group, having lunch. We were out sitting in the sun, and a group of teenagers came from behind us around on both sides, and they were wearing the current perfumes and stuff that would have had me twitching on the ground 2 weeks ago.
And how were you?
I was fine. I had absolutely no reaction. Already I can head off, I can dodge the MCS reaction. When I encounter a smell, I've encountered dryer vents because I've been on my bike. I actually went to a bank yesterday and sat in a banker's office with the other clients there, and I would never have been able to do that without wearing a respirator before. In fact, some of the people in the bank didn't recognize me because they'd never seen me without a respirator on my mouth. I'm generally happier, and that spills over onto the people that I live with. They're happier too. Even the cat's happier. I get out of chairs more easily than I used to. I don't have the energy crashes that I used to have. And I've been on a bicycle. I was on a bicycle for an hour on Wednesday. And that hasn't happened in years. I just haven't had the strength, and I wouldn't risk the energy crash that would normally have come after that sort of exercise. Before, in order to go outside, even sometimes into the backyard to get into the car, if there was a dryer vent smell, or somebody had walked by with perfume, or some neighbor had sprayed something on their lawn, I would have to wear the respirator or I'd be sick for 4 days. And that meant that I had to wear that when I went out into public. So going shopping, going to the farmer's market to buy organic food, I was always encountering perfumes, so I had to have that on my face all the time. I haven't worn a respirator since the first day of the workshop last week, so it's been a full week. And I've been out every day, which I didn't used to, and I've been out every day without a respirator mask in situations where I would normally have had to have it on. during the last 5 years. So far, I'm just so happy. I feel as though I'm taking really good drugs. I'm getting exercise, which I wasn't able to do before. I'm able to think about the future in terms of what can I do rather than how will I survive. And that's really important to me. It's given me a whole new opening, which I hadn't had to worry about for a long time. I've had to worry about other things, but not what I can do. For anybody who has MCS, I would very strongly recommend that they try this. And if they try it, I'm pretty sure so far, I'm early on, but so far the results for me have been miraculous, and the results that I've seen in other people have been miraculous, and I think they should do it.
My name is Tilda. I am 39 years old. I have suffered from multiple chemical sensitivities and electromagnetic sensitivities for the last 8 years. I had to use a respirator whenever I would go into town or into other people's places. I actually lived outside in a tent for a few years initially. I had to leave New York City, where I used to live, and my career. I was disabled. And when I went into town with a respirator on, going into stores, I would come out, I would get sick from the residual fragrance or chemicals that would be stuck in my hair or my clothes, and have a very hard time driving home with that smell. I have not been able to use a computer, watch TV. The phone, regular phone, was an issue. I had a special made low EMF phone. I have a truck that's very low in EMFs. So I learned to avoid these things. My life for these last many years have been a life of avoidance. A friend of mine told me in a phone conversation about that he'd heard about someone on Planet Thrive who had gotten better from both chemical sensitivities and electromagnetic sensitivities. And I thought I needed to find out about that. That was the first time I've ever heard anyone get better from electromagnetic sensitivities as well as MCS. So I looked it up online, and I found out about Annie Hopper. And it's the best thing I've ever done. I went to the workshop in Bancroft, Canada, and I actually was wearing my mask the first night when we all met. I was camping out for the first few nights of the workshop, but was able to move inside and sleep for the first time in a bed again during the workshop.
Tilda, how about you?
Well, I'm still sleeping in my room. So within a few days, I felt a major shift in my brain. I experienced some quite immediate improvement when the workshop started, and I haven't worn a mask since. I now know that the reactions that I used to have to chemicals and electromagnetic exposures are caused by an impairment or cross-wiring in my limbic system, and that I can rewire that part of my brain and not go into these reactions. Annie Hopper is the most positive, giving person I have met, and such a positive presence to be around. She's so full of energy and love. I feel that she was just amazing at facilitating the message and the knowledge or the science behind the neuroretraining. I am so happy that I did the workshop with her. The DNR program has totally changed my life. Before, my life was one of avoidance, of wearing a mask, of living as disabled. Since I started the DNR retraining, I have been able to go into stores that are very fragrant, go into Home Depot. I have just recently been to New York City for 2 days, stayed with a friend. I was in a lot of very fragrant places. I went to restaurants, I went to museums, to galleries. I had a lot of fun. This I could not have done before. I'm using my computer today a lot, and I am envisioning that it is going to be part of my future in terms of work, that I'm going to be using it on a daily basis to do my work. This would have been impossible before the DNR workshop. Basically, I have a life today. I can see that I have a career ahead of me as a photographer, which is what I used to do, and it's starting to take off again. I am just happy about the prospects of having a future. To anyone else suffering from chemical sensitivities or electromagnetic sensitivities who are considering the DNR workshop, I would say go for it. It has totally changed my life in a way that I had not even thought possible. Today, my life, I can be in the world again, I can have fun, I can do pretty much what a normal person does. The DNR workshop have given me back my life.